Beto O'Rourke calls for ethical farm-to-table restaurants in every community. Okay. Former Representative Beto O'Rourke called for the establishment of farm-to-table restaurants in every community to combat poor nutrition. Farm-to-table restaurants are part of a socially conscious movement favored by wealthy urbanites that often feature small, elaborately designed fare. Yeah, okay, so we know what farm-to-table is. Beto says he wants farm-to-table restaurants in every community when asked about poor nutrition in places. Another Washington Post journalist, Dave Weigel, did not relay the paraphrased exchange, but noted that the topic of poverty-linked food deserts was more fully addressed by O'Rourke. Beto gets a question about nutrition. He has a very handy series of answers based on conversations with people in food deserts. So, here's the thing with this article. Food deserts are a very real thing in this country. The answer to food deserts is not a bunch of farm-to-table restaurants that a lot of people who live in situations like that probably can't afford. That's not an alternative to a food desert. No restaurant is an alternative to a food desert. A restaurant is a treat, right? That's not like that's not your dietary supplement. Oh, I live in a food desert. I don't have access to quality food. I have to go far just to get groceries. Oh, good, a farm-to-table restaurant's here. I'll just go there every day. And this speaks to Beto O'Rourke being completely out of touch with general people. Why? Because he's married to a billionaire. He's a completely out of touch corporatist, and he would lose to Trump because of dumb comments like this, among other things. However, getting to the principle of this article, I do reject the idea. Here, let's see here. How they point out that a socially conscious movement favored by wealthy urbanites. Now, I know they're talking specifically about farm-to-table restaurants, but I do reject the idea that being more, that the idea of sustainability via local farms is a wealthy urbanite idea exclusively. I reject that notion, and that notion is not true. I know that's not what the article is claiming. I'm using this as a conversation topic. I know the article was referring specifically to farm-to-table restaurants, which I like farm-to-table restaurants. But, you know, this idea that farming is a solution to food deserts is a noble idea, is a true idea. And, you know, this idea that something like a crop share or something like maintaining a better relationship to your local farms is something solely reserved for wealthy people and the elite is just straight up false. And kind of the wrong attitude to have. You know, if you look in your area, there are probably great crop shares out there that if you measure it up to what you would spend in the grocery store each week, and how it would be supplemented by a farm, it's actually affordable in many cases. And a lot of these farms, they offer shares where you can work for your share, where you can give them a couple hours of your time each week, and you learn how to farm, and then you get your share. And I know that, you know, that's not always easy. People are working 2 to 3 jobs. But maybe you're underemployed and you have a hard time getting access to good food because you're underemployed. Well, this is something you can do, and it helps out your local farm, and it helps out yourself. And I know this isn't an ideal situation to be in, but we don't live in an ideal society right now. So this idea of going local and this idea of turning to farms is something that I am very much an advocate of. And something we've talked about a lot on this show. I've told a lot of people, I'm like, look into a crop share in your community. I used to be a member of a crop share in Tennessee. They would offer, you could work for your share if you couldn't afford it. You could do a payment plan where you paid it off over a longer period of time if you couldn't afford it. And, you know, I would do the math, and the money that I would save buying groceries each week, it was affordable. And I was an opening act road comic at the time. I was not making a lot of money at all. I was, you know, my girlfriend at the time, she was doing better than me, but we were not a wealthy household by any means. We were a very just working class, just getting by household. And we could afford a crop share. It was a worthwhile investment for us. So I always encourage people to kind of look into that stuff. So it speaks a lot about Beto O'Rourke that instead of talking about sustainable farming, instead of talking about looking into your local farm, instead of talking about crop shares and encouraging more local farming, he talks about farm-to-table restaurants. That says something about the amount of privilege he comes from and how out of touch he is. He could have taken that question in a different direction and focused more on all the stuff I just described. So that does tell you a lot about him. And even though, I think that the theme he was getting at was a good one. The theme of, hey, local farms, hey, good quality food, hey, nutrition. But to him, that means a farm-to-table restaurant where I can write a Yelp review. To other people, that means more farmers markets, more accessibility to local farms, participating in your crop shares, volunteering some hours in exchange for a share. So that does speak to how out of touch Beto O'Rourke is. But the idea that farming plays a role in combating food deserts is very true and very good. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and